there, Max. Hope you're having a great day today. Here's your video lesson. So here are two things I want to talk about. I'll talk about those two things. And as usual, if you want to take a look at anything or have any questions, feel free to shoot those on over and I'll take a look. So let's get to it. So I didn't see any questions for this week other than just a suggestion I made. So I'll talk about this just a suggestion I made, which is going over the cage system a bit more today, and then notes on the B string, kind of what to do with that to become more familiar with the second string of the guitar and utilizing it more in your solos. So I'll start with the second thing I talked about first. I'll talk about the B string. So I believe last time our assignment was to get familiarized with scales going up and down the B string. Now it's time for the practical. And when this situation right here, what I'll do is I'll kind of back up to a previous topic that we've done, which in this case is E minor pentatonic. And what I'd like you to do is go through your E minor pentatonic scale, right? And then I want you to write out the letter names of that scale, and I want you to find them. So actually map out the second string. I think you've already done that a couple times with the scales that we did. Mapped out the second string and actually like circle and like figure out what notes are cool in E minor pentatonic just on one string. So if I were to do that, it's not going to start on E. It's going to be B, right? Because I said B string open. And then if I go through real quick, just turn around so you can't cheat this week and use this as the notes. So I play. It's not cheating if I show it to you, right? But anyway, so I have those notes right there, and which is the easiest solution. I'll move this closer. And so if I go all the way up at the high point of the scale, those are all the notes of E minor pentatonic across one string. Now, what you want to get used to is seeing where those are. And I always kind of took that for granted because I had practiced them for so long that I kind of just knew where they were. And in teaching people, it was like, okay, it might take a while to get really familiar with that. So you might just want to stay in like a couple fret span. So you might want to start just on the open to like say like the 8th fret and just get really good in like that region. And once that region's good, okay, now we'll go into this region over here. So like maybe like the first 5 frets, then the next 5 frets, and then the next 5. So rather than trying to like first map it out and then to memorize it, right? Just do a couple of frets at a time or a few frets at a time up the neck until you get the whole thing down. The other important thing too is saying the note names out loud while you play them. That'll help reinforce what they are. And then targeting the note E is a landing spot for your mini solo, right? So if I put that backing track on, your Chorus Quartet is a killer. I think I said this to you already. So if I'm staying here in those first 5 frets, it might sound something like this. And targeting the E note. Nothing too crazy, I just know where everything is. Reinforcing that E. Right, then I'll go, okay, that's getting pretty good. It's been a day, I've got really good at that spot, I'm going to the next spot. Targeting that E that time. So, just running up and down notes in that 5th fret to 10th fret region. And okay, I'll go back and I'll review my first 0 to 5 frets on that string. And then the next day I might go, okay, I'm going to go up to like the 15th fret. Get that spot down really good. And then mix and then rinse and repeat. So what I'm doing there is I'm not trying to do the whole string all at once with the E minor pentatonic because it's also like too much information, right? I'm doing little pieces in this region, a little piece in this region, a little piece in this region, and then slowly adding on to like my comfort zone of what I know. And all the while saying the note names of E minor pentatonic and landing on the note E for the backing track. So like I might run up and down that scale, but I'm gonna know where the E is. So that's the way I would approach learning that. Once we get that down, then we'll add sequences to the one string. But first things first is just knowing where all the landmarks are, knowing where all the notes, and being able to say the note, and knowing where the E landing note is on that string is all important. So do that this week for solo practice. Like I said, use this backing track on here. So use the Cortez the Killer backing track I sent you. Other ones will work fine too if you get bored of that one, but that's where I would start. Number 2 is going through Caged. I think I talked about this before. It's in my experience with doing this with people is that we'll get excited and try to like learn all 5 and okay, Doug, now we all 5. Now it's time for like the next thing. It's like, well, no. Know what the 5 are, and then you got to use them for stuff repeatedly, like a lot. It's not uncommon for someone to do like maybe 4 or 5 songs where it's like, okay, it's like 4 chords for the song and you're not allowed to repeat yourself when you play through the chord progression, right? And then that way you're really reinforcing all the different shapes that are available to you. So for example, with Cortez the Killer, the chord progression is E minor, and then it goes to D, and then A minor twice. And so the E minor, A minor, they're fine on their own over here and what you're gonna do for the D chord, every time you go through the chord progression, you're not allowed to use the previous cycle's voicing. You have to use a different cage chord. So if I were doing that, it would sound like this. Here I'm using that open D. Here, speeding up a little bit so you can't get through it. And then back to E minor. Right, that time I used the C4. And the idea behind playing the song like that is because when the song is going, you don't have time to think about what you're about ready to do. These chords have to be like, bam, there, that's D. That's D right there. That's D. That's D. That's D. What am I missing? I think I'm missing one. What am I doing? That one here. Oh, I got Kiss the Fridays. There we go. There we go. So they have to be right? In the heat of the moment, you have to be able to recall them quickly. It's not enough to know them flashcard style, which is like, oh, if I sit there for long enough, I'll remember where, you know, the D form is, or the C form, or the E form. You just have to have them stone cold, and the chords are moving quick, right? That's why I say, like, you're gonna want to do a bunch of jam tunes, like 4 chord tunes that you're like, every time you go through the pattern, you don't get to repeat yourself with what voicing you use. If you do that enough, eventually you just get second inch. Oh, that was D. Oh, you know, the other song that was A. Oh, there's A right there. You should be able to do them lickety split, like, you know. Right, play a progression just by jumping around the neck and knowing them very quickly. So do that this week. Be able to. The goal is to, as I put here, is to be fluent with them. The same way we're fluent in English, we can just kind of start talking and not think about too much about the words that we're saying, unless it's a very unusual word or a SAT word. It's the same thing with the cage chords. It's not enough just to know them in flashcard style, but you have to be able to recall them very quickly to have a guitar conversation in a jam session or a jam situation with a buddy. Awesome, so work on those things for me. I'd love to see if you playing through Cortez the Killer, you can put the backing track on and just play through, you know, a bunch of times through the chord progression, not repeating yourself with what voicing you're doing, and not dropping the beat. That's the other big thing too, making sure you can keep time steady through it. If you can do that, then we add in another chord where you have to say you take a song, The Weight by the Band, or say Three Little Birds by Bob Marley, where you take a chord. Okay, now this time you have A chord, and then D and A are switching between cage chords, and then you get into the minor stuff, but that's for another day. Awesome, work on that for me, and I will see you same time next time. Take care.